All right, so my name is Jill. I'm introducing our next panel. This is Ian. He will be your moderator, and this is the how digital advertising changes the media landscape.
All right, so the way we're going to start with this, we're going to ask each of these presenters to just take 5 minutes to give a few snapshots of what they think are some key trends in digital advertising. Very lucky this morning to, on my left, have Mike Addonizio. Mike Addonizio is the Director of Platform Solutions for a Boston-based digital agency called Anagram that's part of a larger global digital firm called Digilant, which is based in Barcelona, but with offices worldwide. So Mike's here. We've got Jessica Brill. Jessica Brill is with Autodesk, one of the world's largest and leading 3D software companies. And Sonia Mahnot at the far end. And Sonia Mahnot is Director of Marketing for Video Bank. Video Bank is a community bank in headquarters in Shrewsbury.
In Hudson.
In Hudson.
Central Mass.
In Hudson, Central Mass, and more recently opened branches in Framingham and slightly closer to the city. So we've got advertising, digital. We've got the agency side. We've got product, and we've got services. Right. Who is going first? It's Jess.
Me. Cool. Should I go there? I may just hang. It's hard to get up and off this chair a million times. So I'm Jess. As Ian said, I have been working at Autodesk since I graduated Bentley, and I've had a couple different roles there. So I started on just a social media specialist and worked my way into a social media manager position, really looking at social media strategy. And now I'm a digital marketing manager there, really looking at how to drive traffic to our website using social, using SEM. So I've been there since Bentley. Bentley helped me a lot to get where I am now. So good times. So yeah, that's me. That's my Twitter handle. You should probably follow me. Cool. So I'm going to talk about social advertising. So I think, obviously all of us are, and looking at your slides, Sonia, we say a lot of similar things. But really just talking a little bit about like social advertising 101. It's very different when you're thinking about social for yourself, like how you use Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook on an everyday basis, like how you share your personal stories versus how you use social for a brand or a corporation, especially highly regulated, or what I do, which is trying to sell software, which is not exactly the most exciting of things. So talking a little bit about social advertising, also talking a little bit about mobile first, some of these newer platforms like Snapchat and Instagram, and how to incorporate those as part of your strategy. And then just I had a little example of like how to use social media for retargeting. There we go. So yeah, quick overview of social. Like I said before, there's organic social, which is just like the pure posting, sharing videos, sharing photos. And then there's the paid side of things, which allows you to put money behind either posts or videos or just content your brand or company wants to share out, and just helps amplify it to make sure your intended target audience is seeing it. So very basic level. Something I do a lot is working really closely with like our campaign teams and field teams. They're the ones trying to drive webinars, trying to get people to sign up for like ebooks and things like that. So we're using social a lot to help drive, like registrations or leads, and using some of the offerings, especially on Facebook, to be honest, to really get people to sign up for these things that we want them to pay for. So that's a lot of what I do on the social advertising side. Something I've been doing a lot of recently is amplifying videos. So I'm sure we're all on our phones quite a bit, and videos on Facebook and I think on Twitter too, and LinkedIn autoplay without audio. So you really need to look at ways to engage with your audience. You share short, like 30 seconds or less videos with captions, and then amplifying those with some paid spend as needed. But video is a really large part of what I do and help create. So mobile first platforms, obviously there's Snapchat, and I shared some examples. Oh, that's a GIF now, cool. On the left is an example of a Snapchat lens. So Dunkin' Donuts did, you know, like this amplification where you can, I guess, turn your face into a donut, which is kind of fun. And on the right was an example that we did at Autodesk. I think it was like a year ago or something. There's this event called Boston Tech Jam, and it's a local event. I think it's in June, and I'm pretty sure they have student tickets. So if you're interested in learning more about like local tech companies and things like that, highly recommend it. It's a really fun event, and they have a ton of free swag, so yeah. But we shared a filter that was only available like within the, it's called a geo filter. Essentially, it's in the realm of where the event is. We also had one, the Boston Pride Parade, Autodesk was a sponsor for, so we turned on a filter. Like, unfortunately, we couldn't do the entire parade, but we sort of did the end area of the parade, sort of near Government Center. So it's a really good way to get your brand out there, especially at events you have a presence at or you have a booth at, that kind of thing. So yeah, those are some examples of like the ways companies are innovating with different things on Snapchat. And then Instagram Stories is kind of a newer offering. Something that we've been testing out is literally telling a story through panels in Instagram Stories. So like the first panel, I think, is that one, where, you know, you're sort of introducing this, essentially it's a customer example. And each panel, like when someone clicks through with their thumb, tells the rest of the story. So it's just kind of a newer way to innovate and tell stories versus just like regular posting on Instagram. So that's something we started looking into. And then finally, Facebook has some integrations on the Messenger side with chatbots, although given recent difficulties, there are some issues with like privacy, and I think there's a kibosh on like any new chatbots being created, so this is a questionable one. But essentially there's a way to automate some customer service conversations that are happening, and I know, like, I'm not personally involved with it, but some of the people at my company are currently piloting a Messenger pilot where people can ping us and say like, hey, I'm interested in buying a software package, and sort of walk them through a purchase conversation without ever having to get on the phone or, you know, talk to an actual person. So it's a kind of interesting new way of interacting with people, especially because we are so mobile. And then finally, just an example about social retargeting. So this is an example of a campaign that I ran. We created this thing called a BIM-fomercial. BIM is sort of like the software. It's building information modeling. So it's like the 3D version of, if people know CAD or AutoCAD, that's sort of what I do. So we created this like fun little infomercial kind of video. It's kind of cheesy, but really fun. And then what we did was promote it, and we grabbed all the people who viewed it. So we had like 6,500 people view the video. And we were then able to retarget all the people who viewed this video with a subsequent message about this software package we were trying to sell them. So hate to break it to you, but if you're watching things on Facebook, there's probably people retargeting and like using your data, surprise, surprise. So I don't know, it was a really cool example of just a way, like, we shared a fun kind of silly video and we were still able to get them towards a purchase decision. So I thought that was kind of a cool example. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Awesome. So as Ian mentioned, I work at a company called Anagram. So we're a digital agency. We do a lot of social advertising, like Jess talked about, for our clients. We do search advertising, so across Google and Bing. And then we do programmatic advertising. So we're the ones that place all the ads on the fake news articles that Pierre was talking about.
Oh, here's the clicker.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk through the future of digital advertising. So my big idea, or my prediction for digital advertising, is that the future is going to be people-based. This is actually something that was coined by Facebook a few years back, and what it means is that advertising should be targeted towards real people. And I know that sounds simple and silly, but it's actually really complex to do this. And the reason why it's so complex is because of the way that the world has evolved. So I happen to know Ian. I know he's a huge fanboy of Apple, and he's purchased probably every version of every Apple device. So it's very possible that this is Ian's device roster. So if you're trying to target Ian, and he's interacting with your brands, he's browsing the web across all these different devices, it's going to be really hard to tell a story to Ian.
Yeah, excuse me, that's an Amazon Alexa. And I actually do have the HomePod. So
you use that to buy more Apple devices, right?
To buy more Apple devices.
So advertisers really want to target Ian. They don't want to target a device.
I'm looking better.
So the way, if you're targeting devices, this is not effective because it's going to result in a poor user experience. So I'm sure some of you have, looked up a product on your phone, then you went to your laptop, you purchased it on your laptop, and even after you purchased it, you're still seeing ads on your phone because those two devices aren't linked together and the brand doesn't know that you've already purchased. So it's a bad user experience and it's not great. The next thing is it leads to poor attribution. So if you're a marketer, you want to know the best channel to put your budget into. And that's really hard to do if people are seeing your ad on one device and then purchasing on another. So if someone saw a Facebook ad on their phone and then later purchased on their laptop by searching, Facebook is getting 0 credit, but it definitely had some sort of influence over that purchase. So it leads to poor revenue attribution. So in order to fix this, I think brands in the future are going to have to invest in identity. So with their own customers, they're going to have to use platforms, what's being called a customer data platform, to store and organize their own customers. I think they're going to have to rely on third parties to build out device graphs for them. So being able to identify anonymous users. And some of those exist today. So Facebook is a really great example of a deterministic cross-device graph. So when you're logged into Facebook, they know it's you across devices because you're logged in on your phone and you're logged in on your laptop. So there's going to need to be more of that in the future. The only thing that's going to stand in the way is Zuckerberg was in Congress a couple weeks ago. So if this becomes heavily regulated, that could be a problem. But otherwise, this definitely is the future of advertising, in my opinion.
All right, Mike. Great, thank you. Okay, good job, thanks. And I know Sonia.
Hi, my job basically is done because Mike presented everything that I wanted to say. Just reiterate it, okay. But I'll keep it very high level.
Say it again.
I'll keep it very high level. So I work at Addonizio Bank, which is a community bank based out of central Massachusetts. It has about 12 branches now, and we're starting to move more toward Metro West and the Boston areas. It's a community bank, but it's one of the pioneers of technology in Massachusetts. They were the first ones to bring in cardless cash. A lot of the mobile apps are very, very advanced. So it's really trying to compete with the bigger banks. So talking about digital transformation, to transform a very traditional kind of a bank into a digital organization, it goes beyond just redesigning apps and redesigning online banking. It's about changing the legacy processes, the legacy systems. It's about changing the infrastructure. It's about changing the culture, really, of the bank. And digital marketing and advertising and communication forms a big piece of that whole process. And this is where content marketing enters. I know Pierre has spoken a lot about fake news and all the digital content that's out there, but it really has exploded. And to give you a little perspective, this is a little stale, but you can see the upward trend. So in 1999, there was 3.5 million searches per day. In 2014, when it moved to 3.5 million queries per minute. And it's only on an accelerated path from there. When it comes to content and a bank, it really forms the core of how we build customer relationship. And for a bank, customer relationships are often deep and often lifelong. You'll not see very many people changing banks often. As an example, I just want to do a quick audience poll. How many of you have actually been to a physical branch of a bank in the last 6 months? Oh, wow. That's actually surprising to me. Yeah. And can I get some answers as to why you would actually go to a bank? What is it that makes you enter a branch?
I opened another account.
Okay. And you didn't want to do that online? Okay. All right. Yes? Just behind Fiona.
I did get a cashier's check.
Oh, okay. So there are some examples. And this is very, the trend is definitely moving toward digital. And to bring it back to digital advertising, traditional forms of marketing are really becoming less and less effective. The way forward is digital, and words like trust, words like are we a bank that listens in terms of financial literacy, financial education? Are we the thought leaders? Those are some of the content-related things that really need to be highlighted. The other things related to content is, are we mapping the pain points of the customer? Are we identifying their problems and providing highly personalized solutions in content format? And the format could be video, could be retargeted ads, could be digital, could be digital display ads, could be social. It's really about connecting with the customer where they are. And where they are is here, where all of you are is social. It's a very complicated, tough landscape to navigate, but really, like a lot of the other organizations, our bank too has kind of cherry-picked the channels, the media that resonates with the audiences, that is apt for the messaging that we want to put out there. As a very highly regulated highly regulated industry, it's very important that we set the strategic goals and objectives at the beginning and then chalk out a roadmap. So some of the questions that we asked when we went on social were, what is it that we're trying to do? Are we just trying to offer our products and benefits and services to the customer? Are we trying to highlight the company culture? Are we trying to invoke thought leadership by, as I said, financial literacy and education? So it's really important to just set and establish those goals before one goes on social and goes all out in terms of advertising. Organizational buy-in is huge when it comes to social, and I say that because I've seen this movement of a very traditional kind of an organization into a very modern bank. The opt-in of the leadership, the champions at the higher executive level is needed if one really wants to go out on social. The language is new, and it's important to align the business goals with the social goals. And really, at the end of it, the content and what we're providing on digital needs to be consistent, it needs to be valuable, it needs to be relevant and authentic. So to find that common ground and to find that intersection is important, and then just let that guide you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sonia. So you've heard 3 different viewpoints. I think they're all sort of converging around social. And it's interesting listening to Mike say he thinks the future of marketing is people. And therefore, we need to know more about people. And the more we know about you, the more information you share with us, willingly or unwillingly, is going to help marketers do a better job, because it's all about you and it's all good for you. How many of you have a Facebook account? How many of you have considered deleting Facebook given the past revelations? How many of you have actually deleted Facebook? One. Okay. Well, that ties in with Facebook yesterday revealed their first quarter profits and earnings from advertising. And it's a 200% increase on the same quarter last year. So in the last quarter, Facebook took in $12 billion in advertising revenue in 3 months. And the trajectory is continuing up. So I was wondering, so I was curious to see what their report was going to be like. I was thinking, you know what, maybe we've reached a tipping point. But if the numbers are correct, maybe we haven't. Chris?
But is the tipping point going to happen at the end of the day when the GDPR?
So GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations, do you know what GDPR is? GDPR is the privacy regulations coming in from the European Union. Because Europeans actually believe that there should be checks and balances on what companies and governments can do with your data. So they're bringing in quite swinging new regulations that are going to force companies like Google and Facebook to be a lot more transparent in how they collect your data, how they use it, and what they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to collect and not to collect. And then the question is that going to also come across to the States? Do you think, Chris, that GDPR is going to arrive in the US anytime soon in the European form?
I don't think that it's going to arrive here as legislation. However, everybody, I mean, the way that law is written is so global in the context that you as that anyone who's an EU citizen who's in the United States, the fines can cross the pond.
So, Mike, I'm going to turn to you first. As part of a global digital media company, is this something that your company is considering, how this is going to impact you and your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So it definitely has. So again, our company is headquartered in Spain. We do a lot of data science based in Spain. So it's definitely affected us. We had to change some of our products based on GDPR. But yeah, typically here in the US, we're using other platforms. So we use Facebook, Amazon, Google. They've made the changes for us so that, here in the US, we don't really see the effect. But Digilent, like I said, has seen an effect globally because of our data science products.
Interesting enough, Facebook. When you sign up, you get a new piece of software from Apple or whatever, and you get a 37-page, 5 million word document that's called your license agreement, which we in the business call the EULA, an end-user license agreement. And it's like, hey, would you like to read this thing before signing it? Like, hell no, I just want to use the damn software. And we go, yeah, fine, whatever. So Facebook has two headquarters, one in Menlo Park, California, and the other one in Ireland. And Menlo Park in California is for Facebook users in America, North America, and the one in Ireland was for the rest of the world. Guess what Facebook did earlier this month? They shifted all their end-user license agreements that were for the rest of the world to Menlo Park. I wonder why. So that now they said it's just to be more convenient to make them all to be able to just manage everything in one place. Clearly it's not. Clearly it's about moving people's rights over to America, where you actually have less rights or less protections and more rights for corporations to do whatever they want with your data. How many of you think Google and Facebook are evil?
Leading question.
Yes, we've got some people over there. Why do you think they're evil? Yeah.
Oh, definitely, because, I mean, and even Mike seems to like that actually, right? Your people-based approach, you said, oh, there's staff laws that are coming, I hope they're not coming. And UX, and we say, you know, user-centered, and then we try to do the good stuff for the user. You seem to call it people-based, but you want to do the good stuff for yourself. I think Facebook is even worse about that, right? So, I don't agree with you.
So it's changed from first do no evil to don't tell anyone we're doing evil, right?
Yeah, I mean, so Facebook is a free service. You are able to connect with your friends, and the price for doing that is letting Facebook use your data. Though you probably haven't read all the terms and conditions, that's the agreement that you have with them. If you're going to be annoyed by ads, I'd say that it's probably best that it's ads that are relevant to you, rather than, you know, seeing ads that have nothing to do with you pop up in your Facebook news feed every day.
I mean, I agree. I mean, you know, I'm not naive. On the other hand, don't call it people-based and pretend to do that for us, because you don't.
Yeah, so I work for advertisers, so I'm doing it definitely for the advertisers. I'm also a consumer, and I, like I said, would prefer to see ads that are relevant to me than ads that are not.
And I think as a marketer, excuse me, we're constantly looking at, like, we're doing persona marketing, right? Like, rather than sort of what it used to be, whereas, like, let's just communicate out broadly to a wide range of people and hope something sticks on the wall. We really come up with, like, our personas are like the C-suite. So, like, the C-level executives, we promote, like, thought leadership material to them. So white papers and ebooks. For lower level down, like business managers, we make sure they're aware of webinars or upcoming events. So, you know, it's not like, I don't know if you want to take it to the individual level. It's rather just looking at what people are interested in and how to give them what they want. Because as Mike was saying, like, you sign up for a service, your data, I hate to break it to you, but your data is being shared. This was happening way before Cambridge Analytica, like, let's be real. So would you rather be getting information about things you want to see? Like, the example I always give was when I was engaged a handful of years ago, I changed my status on Facebook to engaged instead of what it was before in relationship. The minute I changed it to engaged, I started getting ads for bridal things, for events, for, you know, workshops and buying jewelry. So they knew exactly what, you know, who I was, and that's always been the case. So I think it's just taking a lens of, you know, is this something, as you're opting into this network, are you willing to get ads, excuse me, are you willing to get ads about what you're interested in? So.
Hi, I had a question. What is that threshold from your perspective of advertising? What is that threshold of, and I'm going to use your example of engagement. So if you're trying to purchase a baby product for someone else, and then suddenly you're getting those ads, you know, I'm not really a true potential consumer because that's not something that's relevant to me. So what is that threshold between interest in something versus I am that persona that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, some of that's like, I think you talked a little bit about like the discovery phase and like you're doing the research, and frankly, when I log into my Amazon account and they have all that amazing data learning and like exactly what you're saying, I'm buying baby gifts for my friends, and they're like, do you want to buy this baby stroll? And we're like, no. So, you know, yes, there is like some of that algorithm.
So is that part of like the responsibility as a digital advertiser to say this is the threshold between responsible advertising versus, you know, something that's relevant and useful and enhances the quality of someone for a product or service that they're looking for versus just making it like so anyone that.
Yeah, and I think especially given some of these, like the GDPR and some of these, like I know my company, I'm now part of, I don't know what our official name is, like essentially a task force looking at, okay, how can we protect our users' data even closer? Because we were doing a ton of like CRM list uploading, and there's something called lookalike audiences through Facebook and, you know, all the other channels where it's people who look like your customers. So there's a lot you can be done there. So we're taking a step back and sort of reevaluating that process, exactly what you said, to make sure that we're like sort of protecting the data and our users while still trying to market to them something they're still interested in.
I'd just like to add to that. So at the end of the day, whatever they call themselves, Google, Facebook, technology companies, they're really advertising companies, And by the very nature of the functionality of search, what you're searching for is what's going to be served to you in terms of the ads that are served. So as a live example, we are working with a personalization company to bring that on to our website. So that's really about, creating personas and then presenting or serving to the customer what they're interested in. So I don't know what the threshold is, but it really is a persona that's created. If you're searching for a certain loan, the next time you log on to the bank website, you will be presented with various loan options. So that's what it means.
Well, it just seems that you're making an assumption. You're making a lot of assumptions, but I don't hear much discussion of managing your margin of error. That the data that you're looking at and collecting is accurate, because I think that there is a massive margin of error, and how are you accounting for that? I'll use an example of you asked, did you delete your account? I don't have to delete my account, because who Facebook thinks I am is not even remotely close to who I'm actually being. And I don't get relevant ads.
But do you like who they think you are?
They must think I'm schizophrenic, because the range of who they think I am includes from my 10-year-old to the data searches I do for my 77-year-old mother, right?
Yeah.
So they think I'm everyone who touches that piece of equipment, which is shared, and it's incredibly wrong. And I actively don't have advertising content pushed to me. That's correct.
Right.
And in fact, the more I see any brand getting pushed, more frequently I have a more negative perception of that brand.
I think I'll come to you, Pierre, in a second. I think one of the defenders of Cambridge Analytica, one of the founders, or one of the people involved in that, said, well, look, we couldn't have done anything wrong because we only think at very best we were about 15% accurate in the personas that we created to try and influence the election, the election results. So I do think, do you want to address the question about accuracy of data?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely waste in every media buy, but everything that we do comes down to performance. So we back into a cost per purchase or a cost per acquisition. So even though we're definitely wasting impressions on certain people, it's still effective and it still works for the brand.
Right, but I mean long-term results of, are you accounting for negative perception of your brand, the 85% waste?
Yep, absolutely. So in all of the algorithms, honestly, in these platforms, they're going to cap you. So at some point, you're going to stop receiving ads because Facebook's going to know this isn't relevant for you, and it's probably resulting in a poor experience on Facebook, and they don't want that. So over time, the algorithms will, will catch you.
No, I agree with Mike. I mean, we do a lot of ROI analysis and measurement and then optimizing, but it's an ongoing process. A lot of the ads that are served, I was just reading about the Google micro-moments strategy. I think it's also very moment-based in terms of online search. It's what you're looking for at that point in time is what you will be served. And the persona is really built over a period of time. So that can change.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, for you budding marketers in the audience, this idea of a moment is super hot right now. It's like we do think in fractions of moments, and we have such small attention span. It's catching you in the moment that you feel happy, that you feel sad, that you feel like you need a cake or something.
And that's why Snapchat and Instagram are so prevalent, because it's share something for 24 hours and then unless you save it, it disappears. And that's really big.
Pierre, we'll take one question for you and then we'll take the last one from the back. Pierre.
It's interesting whenever you hear advertisers talk, they always talk about relevance to the consumer, without really, and it's a sort of mantra which has been handed down from Moses or
it's true.
But there are two aspects to relevance, okay, and marketers really need to stop thinking about this. And the one which has become dominant is reflection rather than revelation. Okay, basically, everything you say, I have a profile or something, and then it's just a hall of mirrors where my values and views and interests are just reflected back to me. So we become more and more and more narcissistic, and we become more and more fragmented as a society. Rather than revelation, which reflects what is, gives you different opinions, different views, different things. Okay? And it's difference which is going to unite the world. Understanding of difference rather than narcissistic reflecting back to us our own little reflections become narrower and narrower. So I think marketers need to really think about what is relevance. In the homily.
And you tried to reveal me as being an evil marketer when I thought that was actually marketers are good. We have time for just one more question.
Can I say something about that?
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily from the marketing perspective, but I remember reading an article post-election where that was a really big thing, where people were saying, like, wait, we don't get it. All our friends were saying they were voting for Hillary. Like, why didn't she win? All the articles were talking about Hillary. All the media was talking about Hillary. Why didn't she win? And it was sort of talking to that, where you associate yourself and your general network of people are probably people with similar interests and background to you. And you don't necessarily, you're not necessarily connecting with the people who didn't vote for Hillary or, have differing views from you. So that, I remember hiding people on my Facebook who were sharing things that I didn't really want to see because I was sick of it. So I think it's to that point, as a marketer, you need to be open up sort of the walls a little bit and sort of give people things they're not necessarily sure they want, but it might be good for them.
One last question for you, ma'am.
So one of the themes I'm hearing a lot in this conversation is breaking down of the fourth wall, where there's always been this sort of agnostic view of we know the way that advertising is being delivered, but consumers aren't necessarily assigning the way that it's being delivered. So there's this awareness that's being brought forth from all this conversation around privacy. And of course the regulations can impact what has to be done, but I'm curious how much sentiment and impact there is on the brand side of willingness to adopt things like programmatic, and how much we expect there could be slowing in terms of people willing to kind of go down that more targeted path based on that, just based on potential risk and concern of impact to the brand based on what consumers are perceiving.
Yeah, I guess with all of our advertisers, we definitely take a step back and we think about, is what we're doing creepy? Is it going to creep out the consumer? So we definitely consider that. When it comes down to it, we're talking about all these micro segments, but in reality, they're not that micro. They're actually quite large. It's definitely something that we consider whenever we work with our brands.
I'd like to add something. So when we talk social marketing, it's a lot of different pieces. So we use a dashboard called Hootsuite to manage, all of the social marketing that we do. And there are very distinct aspects that we can do. So there is social selling, which is more aggressive. There is just, social communication and marketing. There is employee advocacy, and there's also, taking on customer service requests and issues and addressing those. So it's really, there's distinction there. So that's something, and sentiment analysis is something that's very actively done, but it's all based on keywords, negative keywords, and it's all that's being searched for that ultimately results in what's being presented.
And this was all Facebook and Google, like you were saying before, they're the advertising platforms, it's the technology. As a marketer, this was all happening before. It's just we didn't really have the technology to back it up and to be able to pull data at at our fingertips. So yes, we're able to track sentiment analysis. As soon as it looks like it's trending negative, we might alter some of our messaging. I mean, it just makes it, to Ian's point of in the moment, it just gives us the ability to make those changes more instantaneously, whereas before you'd probably have to like call up your media buyer and make some changes and wait a week and put some more money in it, that kind of thing. So
that would make sense. Do you think that brands will get like cold feet kind of a thing where like just to be conservative and err on the side of like not good, there being risk? So considering like when Keurig had that like social snafu where like they pulled advertising and it became like a statement because they admitted that they pulled advertising, things like that, do you see there being a trend of programmatic adoption slowing based on some of this impact, or is it still going to be seen?
So I think there's the potential that could happen. I'm definitely seeing trends already around brand safety, fake news, where almost all of our buys now, programmatic, layer on brand safety to make sure that ads are showing up in a brand safe environment, that it's not next to fake news.
Not on Breitbart.
Not on Breitbart. Actually, I have an advertiser that just said, like, stop all news sites. They don't want to be associated with any news, real or fake. So I'm definitely seeing that already happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're very careful, and like I mentioned earlier, just because of compliance, everything needs to be vetted so much before it's, out there in the market. It's, for example, the other day we recently ventured into SEM, and now Google AdWords has a certain time period where from creating the ad to it being enabled, there's a time lag, and they're calling it the eligibility period. I don't know what the checks and balances are, but everyone's obviously aware of what's happening.
It kind of takes us nicely back full circle to Pierre's presentation, where he really had a number of news sites, and we think of news as inviting rational understanding or rational comprehension of what's presented to us. And then we've got advertisers that are like, hang on a second, I don't want to be associated with anything that smacks of news. Whether true news, whether it's a truth or fake. Like, who wants news these days? Or who said he wants to read news? Which is probably another death knell for the news industry. We've just got time actually for one more. Laurel, did you want to ask a question? Do you still have that question in mind?
I did, and it was whether or not we see this as like a pendulum swing, as in, is this social marketing ever going to swing back to kind of a more normal, what I consider, and maybe because I'm older, but a more normal approach where you're not constantly inundated with marketing? It just seems overwhelming at this point. Or is it that we have become so sensitized that you're just going to go through that automatically? What are your guys' perspectives? Is it that the industry itself will start to correct itself, or consumers will actually correct it?
So in terms of Facebook, Instagram, same company, they've already changed their algorithms to show less ads. So it's already starting to kind of swing back the other way. And the reason why they're doing that is because they need to keep their user base, because that's how they make their money. So So if there's less supply but the same demand, then absolutely the ad costs will go up. The way they try to get around it is ads in different places. So adding on Messenger, adding on mid-roll video. So they try to do stuff that's less annoying and a better user experience. But it's definitely a pendulum, and it's definitely swinging back the other way at this point.
I think as a marketer, getting a little more creative and a little bit more smart about how to market. Like we allocate our budgets and commit to budgets at the beginning of each quarter, and by the end of the quarter, we're just sort of like, okay, we got to spend the money. But I think it's just really thinking about it. Sound familiar? I think thinking about it more strategically, taking that step back and say, okay, what's the message we want to share? Let's not inundate the people on Facebook and Instagram, wherever they are, but let's just give them one nice video, for example, that we think they might be interested in, rather than trying to get them to sign up for 8,000 webinars. It's just not going to roll anymore. So to Mike's point, like, it's already swinging back the other way. I think it's just as a marketer, like, being a little smart, but still doing some of that creative stuff. Like, that's what I personally love to do, is getting a little creative with it and seeing what works and what our customers connect with, and then being able to take it one step further with like a follow-on video or a follow-on webinar. If that's something the customers are clearly communicating to us that they're interested in, let's keep going with it. So it's just it's continuing to look at the data and seeing what customers are telling us through the data.
On a lighter note, we have native advertising, so you don't really know that you're being served ads. They look like posts.
We're not like stalking your life, we're trying to help.
So finishing up on that, on the lighter note, that we're serving you advertising that you don't even know that's advertising. And aren't we so kind to do that for you? I think what's really interesting about this conversation is it's sort of like so the chicken and the egg. Does the society we live in, does it deserve the kind of marketing, the advertising, the communication we're getting? Because don't forget, these guys they don't create society. They didn't create Facebook, and they don't make you post your content on Facebook. They don't make you post your pictures on Instagram. They're not forcing you to go into various stores and visit Amazon, and now Amazon being one of the next great advertising platforms that you can actually add. Amazon now is a platform to put advertising on. So if you're thinking of buying a Keurig coffee machine, Nespresso wants to make sure they're placing an ad right next to your potential buy of Keurig coffee. Yeah.
So that's a bit like saying, I can opt out of using the roads. Basically the price of entry on many of these services. You're a teenager growing up, you're on these platforms, you don't exist. You have no printing, nothing. You have to use roads.
Well, yes, but Pierre, you and I grew up in a beautiful world called the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. There was a clear value statement. If you want to watch the BBC in Great Britain, you have to buy a TV license. Think about that. For all of those of you who are like, what the heck is he talking about? It's like having owning a pet and having to have a license for a pet. To own a TV in Britain, you have to buy a license. Think about that. And that license money funds the BBC to provide programming, guess what, without advertisements. There would be no TV over here unless the nice people at Procter & Gamble, etc., decided that this interesting new medium could be used to sell soap powder. And then we get soap operas, and the rest is history. Yes?
When I asked the question about managing the margin of error, my question actually was not with your media spend. And your response was, well, we have ROI, so we see sales and the cost of those sales. And that's valid. But what I meant was your margin of error, the negative impact that it has. We saw a metric earlier that there's no brand loyalty anymore. And all marketing used to be built around brand loyalty, not the immediate sale, forget the long term. And the question was, are you looking at managing the margin of error to go back to rebuilding brand loyalty? And it goes to your question, and it goes to the comment of the pension perspective, that we got here, we started collecting this data, we got really excited about the data, we started advertising, and we started getting dollars, but there's, pushback on privacy. Yes, it's always been collected. People didn't know. They were, ignorant, maybe willfully ignorant to it. So are you looking at that 85% margin of error to be the next place to start putting strategic dollars behind to help your brand and go back to the idea of brand loyalty? Or have you just given up and it's the immediate ROI of the immediate sale, not the long term?
Yeah, no, so there's definitely short-term goals and long-term goals, and for a lot of our brands, we measure both. So while some brands have short-term goals in terms of sales, we have to hit those goals, but we also look at the long-term effects of repeat repeat customers, you know, email unsubscribes, opt-outs. So we definitely measure all those metrics and keep them in mind. We're not looking to alienate consumers. We're looking to provide a great product to them and also provide revenue to our brands.
Yeah, and as I market software, right? So these are subscriptions that cost thousands and thousands of dollars, requires a lot of training, and generally requires a company to purchase. And so there's a lot that goes into it. So for us, the brand loyalty, it's more like once they start with an Autodesk software, they sort of just continue the path. It's actually more expensive than switch. So we're just sort of talking to them about the latest and the greatest. So they're sort of already brand advocates and in some cases influencers. So it's kind of a little different for us because software is just a little...
You're B2B, not...
Yeah, exactly. But in the same vein, we're continuing to work with, we have an intern this summer coming to talk to us about working on an influencer program. So trying to get these really power users, these advocates, and how to get them to continue to work on relationships and help us with some of our marketing, because these are the people using our software every day. So how can we be better marketers as a result?
All right, well, we're going to cut it off there. It's been a fascinating conversation. We can continue the conversation through the rest of the day. We have a new panel starting at 11 o'clock. It's 10:45 now. So please help yourself to more refreshments. And we're going to sort of take a step back and with the next panel and talk about what's new in new product development, because if there are no new products, we got nothing to advertise. So we're going to step back to new products. Thank you guys. Thanks so much.